Hello, everyone. We're on page 239 of my book, Days of Ragnarok. We pick up where we left off. This chapter is titled Terlingua. Travis slows and stops. Ahead of us is a turn from the highway that leads to a cluster of buildings defining what is called town. Willie, Pete, same plan. It's about 75 yards over this rise. Get some distance between you to cover multiple angles and buildings. Don't shoot unless you have to. Travis has raised his boys well to never has to tell them not to shoot unless necessary, but it has become a habit and slips out easily. Bob, Paul, we'll do the same as we did before, but let's search together this time. If there's anyone here, they may spook if we're scattered, but just the same, let's keep about 5 paces between us. Travis gets the double click on the radio and replies with 1 click. The Rangers pull up to the largest building, and the men cautiously begin looking through dirty windows. It looks deserted, but hasn't been looted, says Paul. Might be big enough for a main building. There's a big stove in the center, adds Bob. Looks serviceable, too. Travis tries the door, but it's locked. Let's check the back door. The men find the back door closed, but unlocked. Inside is uncharacteristically swept and clean. Travis speaks softly. Buildings left to themselves accumulate dust quickly. This place is a bit too clean. A voice from behind them accompanies the unmistakable slide of a pumped shotgun. That might be 'cause these buildings ain't abandoned. Now set your guns on the floor, turn around real slow with your hands where I can see 'em, and state your business. All 3 men do exactly as they are told, but before Travis turns, he catches the glint of a rifle scope through the window he's facing. One of his sons has their abductor clean in his sights. My name is Travis McCann. This is Bob Isham and Paul Sayer. We're on a scouting trip to find a place to winter an honorable group of survivors. We have provisions and skilled people, but not enough firewood to stay warm in our drafty huts. We are not here to steal or cause harm. Can I ask who I'm speaking to from the rude end of that scattergun? My name's Lucas Maxwell. I run this place, or at least I did when there was a country to come visit. You the folks that met that airplane a couple weeks back? That was us, Travis answers. We found a sick man and his wife and a baby up in one of the hangars. Took 'em back with us and got 'em better. They're with the rest now. Saw you take 'em with you. Didn't know they was there till after you left. Mighty kind of you. Lucas takes a deep breath and says, I guess you aren't here to do no harm, or you wouldn't have took that family with you. He lowers his shotgun. Lucas is an older man in his late 60s, a bit overweight, with somewhat of a pot belly. The balding top of his head is encircled with curly white hair and a full beard to match. I'm sure tourists took him for a leftover miner from the ghost town. Lucas, I have 2 sons watching our backs from outside. Mind if I call them off and let them come in? Lucas lays the shotgun on the counter. I guess you best. I ain't much of a commando anyways. Not sure what I was going to do with you if you was bad news. The wife and me has been pretty lonesome, but we've been hearing of folks doing real bad things, looting and killing, just over water. We get news over shortwave, but about 3 times a week. There's folks out here on the ranches, but I guess we're too far out to attract trouble. I was real fearful you was the first. Travis radios a single word, clear. Pete stands up from his hide just 50 feet beyond the window and directly in line with Lucas. There was only a bush to give him cover, but it is dense enough that Lucas never saw him. The look on Lucas's face as he sees Pete stand with a scoped rifle in his hands is memorable, to say the least. Willie comes from a different direction, and both men come to the front door with weapons lowered. Bob asks Lucas if it'd be okay to unlock the door. It strikes Paul a bit funny how polite the atmosphere becomes with so many firearms in the room. Lucas asks, what sort of place are you scouting? I know this place and most of the ranches. We talk on commercial band, just call them ranch radios. Travis responds, we have 53 with the Spencers. 56 if you count me and my boys. The springs will be drying up, and cold weather is coming. We have food enough, some medical, even a nurse. What we need is a place to stay warm till spring. Lucas appears a bit uncomfortable with the news of so many people. Just what sort of folks are we talking about? Travis explains. We're like a small town. Most are one way or another connected with a corporation out of Houston. They're families with children, single men and women, grandparents and friends, all God-fearing and decent folks. Looks like you stumbled on the right place, says Lucas. This here's a resort. Don't look it from the road, but behind us is a ghost town and deluxe accommodations for 60 at most. If and some don't mind a couch or cot, tell me the truth. To tell the truth, me and the missus could appreciate the company and added security. Let me show you around, but watch for snakes. Lucas's warning and the Viper Crossing signs have Willie's undivided attention. Willie hates snakes. He claims he and snakes don't agree. The snakes are long dead before he's done killing. Travis asks if it'd be best to pick up and holster their sidearms, and Lucas agrees. On the back door are other smaller buildings. One is a residence. Lucas calls to the house. Adelaide, you can come on out. These are some good people. The house door slowly opens and a kind-looking grandma steps out. She appears nervous at seeing the 5 armed men with her husband, but she relaxes after introductions and Travis's softer and kinder nature comes through. Adelaide does all the guest registration. She knows the room layouts and can put folks where they'll best fit. That announcement takes Adelaide by surprise, as Lucas hadn't told her about the guests. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. These men are looking for a place to winter a group of folks that need shelter. This is about the only place. They have their own food. I figure we can use the company and the help. Just like a man, Adelaide rolls her eyes and addresses Travis. How many rooms will you need? It will help if I know more about your people. Are there women in your group? Travis always removes his hat when speaking to a lady. It's a habit of showing respect. Ma'am, we're a mix of men and women, some young families with children, and some older. We have some single men and women as well, all in good health, thanks to a good kitchen staff and our nurse. We're 56 people and all hard workers. You can tell that Adelaide's a bit overwhelmed at the number, but also relieved that they aren't looking at a company of soldiers. It's going to be full rooms, but we'll make it work. Adelaide looks more hopeful. When will they be here? Travis is trying to work out the logistics of transporting people, belongings, and supplies for that many people. We have the ATVs and a trailer that can carry 5 plus some cargo. I have a truck and trailer that can haul about 7 with cargo. We'll have to make several trips because the 2 other trucks we have are gas. Both their tanks are dry, and all we have is diesel. Lucas speaks up. We could help there. In back is a 300-gallon tank of gasoline. We could go get that truck at the airport and bring you gas to drive your other rigs here. Might get the job done in 2 trips. They talk more at dinner, for which Adelaide insists they stay. She says it's a pleasure to fix a meal for more than just 2 of them, and that between the store and restaurant stock, they have plenty. Somehow, when people sit down to eat together, you get to know what they're made of. Willie asks to say the blessing and does so with ease that comes only from regular practice. Adelaide and Lucas lose any fears they may have retained. Adelaide takes a special interest in making sure Willie and Pete have seconds and dessert. Lucas explains, water is no problem at Terlingua. The town is named after 3 creeks that combine right here and flow all year long. After dinner, they retire to the living room, where a single oil lamp provides enough light to fill the room softly. Paul comments, I can't remember the last time I sat in a soft chair. Me neither, says Bob, or to have a carpet under my feet again. Your camp must be rather primitive, Adelaide says. Is it up in the canyons? It is understood that Travis is the only one to share facts or resources of the group. Nothing was said, but an understanding is known, and all think it best this way. It started as a deer camp, ma'am, always polite. Travis explains, one cabin for 6 at most, and a small cook shack. When folks began showing up, mostly friends and folks from work, they made a large addition to the cook shack and turned it into the community building. Huts were built with adobe over stacked stone and a homebrew cement floor, but the doors and windows aren't tight. It's not a bad place. They even have running water and a laundry, but it won't be comfortable when it gets cold. Adelaide has a look of contentment as she thinks about the families. I can imagine the ladies will appreciate a warm shower and a soft bed to sleep in. Ma'am, you have no idea. Travis realizes this will be the selling point for moving the camp. Pete asks, Ma'am, pardon my asking, but how do you run a hot shower with power for a well pump and water heater? Lucas answers, ingenuity. Being so far out, we lose power pretty regular. Long ago, we laid a water line from way upstream. It runs to something called a surge pump. That's a pump that uses water flow to pump a little water into our tower tank on each cycle. Pressure ain't high, but she flows. And add to that a gas water heater and a 1,000-gallon underground propane tank, and we have what you might call a rather fortunate situation. That night is hard to beat. An actual mattress and sheets are almost as refreshing as taking a warm shower. They all know the precious nature of water, and none use it much. They use enough water to get wet, then turn it off. After soaping up, they use enough to rinse away the soap. Conservation has become ingrained by life at camp. Willie sends the 10 o'clock text message that night. Con, FR, RTB, MA. Morning comes, and the men can hardly believe how well they slept in a real bed. Adelaide fixes a good breakfast, and they head to the airport to fetch the Spencer's truck. Lucas finds an empty aviation fuel barrel with the at the airstrip and a barrel pump to go with it. Then they even find a bung wrench. What they can't find are the keys to the Spencer's truck, so it will have to make the trip to camp for the second load if we find the keys. The team's message spreads fast at camp. Contacted friendlies. Returning to base. Mission accomplished. What can it all mean? Did they find fuel? Who are the friendlies? There are many questions, but no answers until the team returns. Nearly all the camp is standing along the roadway up to the community building when the 2 rangers roll in. They are 2 days early and carry good news. At least, we all hope it's good news. Some hope the team has located enough fuel to allow us to remain at home in this canyon. Others realize the camp's limitations and are looking for a better home. How can the prayers of both be met? Travis, Bob, and Paul first meet at the HQ hut with Dad, Fred, Harry, and Sam. After a quick briefing, they all proceed to the community building to share the news. Dad speaks first. First, I want to express my thanks for the safety and good fortune that the scouting team was shown. But since you didn't come here to listen to me, low laughter spreads across the room, I'll ask Travis to share what they found. Travis stands and the room gets deathly silent. Well, it was a short trip. First place we went was back to the last landing strip for evidence of unfriendlies that would have been alerted by the plane. Good news is that nothing was touched. It looks like the bands of roving looters we've heard about either never made it this far, have quit. Travis paused a moment, or have died. We went back to the small tourist stop of Terlingua to look at buildings that might suit our needs or had resources we could use. What we found was a couple still living there with secluded resources that can comfortably house our entire camp for the winter. Mixed emotion covers the room. Some applaud, some sit quietly, and some are clearly disappointed. Travis signals for calm as he continues. Now I know this camp means a lot for all the hard work invested making things nice. And it is a great improvement to sleeping on the ground or in a tent. But what has been offered to us are real beds with sheets and rugs on the floor. He sees the attention shift, and with it, the possible conversion of at least half of those who previously wished to remain. And for the last of you holdouts, Travis enjoys holding the best for last. They have flush toilets and warm showers. Well, that does it. Not a single person wants to stay. Our camp is moving. All hands begin packing and arranging passenger loads and cargo for the trip to our new winter home. No dishes or cooking pots and pans are needed. A fully functional kitchen is attached to the small restaurant. The first caravan carries many of the women and children with a complement of armed protection. We don't expect trouble along the way, but Travis is a man of caution and hasn't survived this long by being careless. 4 men take lead in the 4-place Ranger. 7 people squeeze into the Wagner's extended cab truck with goats and chickens in the trailer. The Ramos family of 6 plus 4 younger riders fit into their truck and camper. Ramon had almost given up hope that his truck would ever move again. The gas cans that Lucas sent are a real joy. Following them is Travis's truck and trailer with 5 in his truck and 2 more riding on top of cargo. Lastly, the 2-place Ranger follows with a full trailer. It's about half the camp when you consider the drivers have to return for the second load. Lucas is right. They're going to make this in 2 trips. They begin at dawn. Progress is slow and methodical. Each curve, bridge, and narrowing of the road is first glassed with binoculars, then negotiated by the lead ranger while being covered by those in the convoy. Once they are well past, they provide cover as the next vehicle passes through. When the last of the group is past the choke point, they proceed to the next. Many have never seen this procedure, and some think the men are playing army, but all the convoy arrives safely and without incident. That's how it's done, comments Travis, and he doesn't care what anyone thinks about it. The keys to the Spencer's truck are found in Chris Spencer's jeans pants pocket. Chris's truck will replace the Ramos's camper that remains at Terlingua. When Lucas and Adelaide see the children and how well-mannered they are overjoyed to play like grandparents. The children's behavior is a tribute to their parents' training, hard work, and the way they are valued at camp. You would have thought the camp had come to bless the Maxwells instead of the reverse. Maybe blessings will pass both ways. At least that's the way things should work. They unload quickly and retrieve Chris's truck from the airstrip. Each gas truck gets a little more fuel for the next round trip and returns to camp for a final load. By tomorrow, the camp will be buttoned up and empty. Mom and Dad stay behind with Fred and Irene Livingston, Harry and Rachel Taylor, Bob and Lisa Isham, Pat and Marge Wagner, Anna and me, and a few others. Tonight is a regular contact night with Jim and Rita, so the radio will go on the last load. There's a joyful sadness around camp. We have seen God protect and feed more than 50 at camp, designed for 10. Every obstacle was met with cooperation and hope. We can't think of a single major quarrel that has erupted. Our peace and success can be attributed to the central hut in camp called HQ. It's where our camp's leadership met after dark to pray for the needs of each precious soul entrusted to us. There is a holiness about the camp and a protective presence that circles our small canyon like a hedge. Tomorrow, camp will be vacant, closed up for winter, and void of need for further prayer. We will have to find a new prayer closet in Terlingua. Last night. The kitchen is packed away. Dinner is more of a sack lunch. Christy Duncan made sure there was both dinner and breakfast for those of us staying for the second caravan, but it's not the same with half the camp gone. Each empty seat cries for the one who's no longer there. This place has brought a great sense of fellowship, but is now testimony to emptiness. At least the communication hut is small, and with all remaining ears listening to news and then sharing updates, it is a bit more alive. Jim's voice is comforting. Though it's technically an FCC violation to broadcast over amateur radio, this is a whole new world. I'm sure the FCC becomes if the FCC becomes reestablished, Jim will follow the rules again. Until then, welcome to the 1st of November and about 15 weeks past the crash. We're getting a bit more chatter from hams across the country due to noticeable reduction in looting and violence. We've learned of more remote towns across the country bringing up localized power. One that we reported earlier has an electric locomotive running power for the whole town. Others in Alaska have operated this way for decades and never skipped a beat. Fuel is still a problem, and roads are generally impassable because of abandoned vehicles. Still, pockets of survivors are beginning to move about. For those living near metropolitan areas, it's strongly recommended you avoid traveling into the city. Nothing in there is worth contracting a disease. Reports are rising, especially from warmer climates in the south, of cholera, typhoid fever, and typhus. With little medical help available, these can be very bad news. Please stay away. On the good side, some farmers are beginning to talk of spring planting. Without fertilizer or machinery, the crops won't be large, but there will be crops again. Finally, I'd like to leave you with a word of hope from the Bible. This is found in Nahum chapter 1, verse 7. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. For all you who are listening, God bless. Thanks, Jim. This is Pat. We'll be breaking down after tonight, but we'll be up again by next contact. Pat and Jim continue passing text data with details of the move as the rest of us slowly filter back to our huts for the night. Anna, you know what I want to do tomorrow, I ask. Hard telling what? Anna's answer is cautious. I want to burn our sleeping mat. Sort of a ceremonial fire signaling the end of the hard and return to the soft. In a sentimental tone, Anna replies, let's don't. I know they're no foam mattress, but the Palmer girls worked hard to make them, and I know they won't be any good after the field rats and rodents have a heyday. But they're a tribute to what was here. They're a message that we beat the odds and survived. Maybe the world fell apart, but we didn't. Let's leave them where they are. I hold Anna close and look into her green eyes. With you on our side, what can we do but survive? Our kid will be blessed with a fantastic mom. As I kiss Anna, there is quietness throughout the camp, a foreboding quietness that perhaps even the canyon and huts are going to miss. This is the final night of a great chapter in the history of this place. 10 people meet quietly in the HQ hut, perhaps for the last time, though the idea is raised that we could make an annual pilgrimage if the world stabilizes again, but it probably will not. Later that night, Mom and Dad talk in their bedroom. Cynthia, when we bought this place, I never dreamed it would become so important for so many. I knew a few could come here, but look at what it has become. It's beyond my wildest imagination. I wonder if we'll ever make it back. I wonder if it's over. Mom's wistful look reflects her amazement at what was accomplished, and sadness that such greatness is now concluded. These are opposite emotions, and her heart is somewhere in the middle. Mom is outgoing in her interactions, quick to befriend or meet a need, but she is introverted in her thinking. Her judgments and opinions come after a lot of contemplation and prayer. When she speaks, you can be sure that she believes and stands behind each word. She is a rock for Dad, and he respects the wisdom that his wife and soulmate provide him. More than her careful examination of facts, Dad has learned to value her intuitions. There were times when facts strongly leaned toward one decision, yet Mom's spirit moved her differently. Following that intuition saved the family business on 2 occasions and has prevented many destructive associations. She is a remarkable woman with a deeply spiritual walk. She also has a well-developed sense of humor and is fun to be with. All these things are what Dad loves about Mom. He is truly blessed that they can share life together. From the window, they can see much of the nearly vacant village that has grown over the past few months. With Dad expecting profoundness, Mom takes a deep breath and speaks. Well, we shouldn't let all this sit vacant. You going to list it for rent? Dad is instantly jolted from his melancholy and bursts into laughter. He wraps Mom in a big hug, and they both laugh and cry at the same time. A wave of both joy and relief sweep through the room, and soon they are gathering belongings into boxes for the morning trip to Terlingua. Certainly they have more hills to climb and bears to shoot, as Mom's grandmother used to say. She feels a little understanding of what Grandma meant by that and wonders what is ahead. Anna and I find our way to the small shade tree we have shared on so many Sunday afternoons. You know, Jason, I'm going to miss this place. I'm somewhat surprised. We still have time to get your grass mat to sleep on. How about a water can to continue taking splash baths? Half laughing, Anna continues, Not that. I'm not even sure I remember the feel of clean sheets or a real mattress or for a real hot shower. But this place has quickly become home for whatever it's worth. I know we'll become comfortable at Terlingua, but I've grown attached to this place. It's where I felt safe and protected from all the chaos that's engulfed the world around us. Terlingua is nearer that world and will be that much closer to having to face the destruction and sorrow. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. I may never be. Taking Anna's hand, I answer, I know what you mean. I can hardly wait to transition from camping to living again, but a piece of my heart has taken root up here. As for the rest of the world, we're not going to explore that for some time. It won't be safe for many more months, and some places won't be safe in our lifetime. We have to be really careful. Anna's eyes turned to mine. What do you mean? I explained nuclear plants. The reactors shut down automatically, but there hasn't been power to the pumps that keep the water in spent fuel rod tanks, and the water that was there has certainly boiled off. Depending on prevailing wind, there's a lot of radioactive poison territory to contend with. It'll be hard to find a safe place anywhere east of the Mississippi, but I wouldn't go within 200 miles north of either Houston or Dallas. Jim helped us draw some maps that we printed and laminated. They show every U.S. nuke plant with prevailing wind notations. We should be able to locate safe places to live. Anna has a concerned look. I think I remember you telling me about this before. What about people who don't know about the radiation? What if their homes are there or they move back? Radiation poisoning is slow, I say. There are people, mostly elderly, who never obeyed the evacuation plan around Chernobyl. They're probably still living there without any side effects. They are already old enough that by the time cancer develops, they will have died by other causes anyway. It's the young and future generations that get hit by radiation. We have a precious package to care for. And for his sake, we're going to be very careful. Anna quickly responds, or for her sake. We could have a girl, you know. First Light finds the trucks loaded and are ready to start the drive. One last walk to check every hut and every building for neglected things. There are none. As we gather for prayer before leaving, Rachel Taylor makes an observation. Did you notice the huts were all cleaned? The dust is sure to pour in as soon as we leave, but every hut was swept and straightened like we were coming back in a day or two. It says a lot for our people, I think. Rachel's husband, Harry, offers an answer. It's respect. What we had here was crude, but it was built on the sacrifice and hard work of many. Leaving it clean is a way of expressing thanks. It speaks more than words, for me at least. We all join hands and pray for safe travel, then take our assigned spaces among the packages of food and belongings. Travis ties 3 small scrubby trees to the back of the cargo trailer behind the last Ranger. It raises some dust, but also erases tire tracks left by our caravan. It'll be difficult to locate this canyon home by tracking. And with the entrance so secluded, a person will have to know where it is or be guided by God himself. Either will be okay with us. This chapter of our life is closed, but a new one is just beginning. Have a great day. God bless.